forth into this barrel. Later on, they decided to check the barrel, and then when they turned it over and looked at it, they found evidence which indicated that the individual apparently was a drug user, and her boyfriend, I believe, I was told, had cleaned out her car.
Is that by the pond?
Yes, that was by the pond. We're trying to carefully. We don't want to tell name names, but we already knew, and that was the one where someone used a local or state authority used a side radar detector,
side
scanning sonar.
Yeah,
and it was broken, and only.
But that's why I missed everything.
That's why they missed.
Well,
everything.
and you just described one and didn't say the name, and I thought of it, and I've narrowed it down to 3 people actually, because that's how many cases there have been. Do you see any changes in missing persons? We talked about volunteers. Do you see changes in the people we're looking for?
Most of them have a lot of mental issues. It's
says the man that sends golf balls across the country.
Yeah, well, yeah. And ever since that individual, I know that member has left us, and thank God that individual has that golf ball, because I haven't found a single one since. But we find that I think it's a lot of stress. You find individuals who are concerned about the local condition of our political society and society in general. And like, why am I not successful at the age of 26, 27 years of age, or even younger? And I think a lot of it has to do with people being over medicated. I think a lot of individuals are given treatment to combat their anxiety, and I think it influences them to where it makes them more vulnerable and more willing to go out and to do something to end it all, because that they can't find an answer as to what's wrong with themselves.
I think they're under a lot of pressures, like you're saying, and I come down a lot on millennials because they annoy me and they're an easy target, but they have a lot of pressures on them that you can't. There's your spokesperson. But I see more and more what the people we're looking for, and the statistics on people that hurt themselves are right in the middle of the road, age-wise and everything else. And, white middle-aged male typically is that ball game. But I see it creeping down in the younger people, and I see people under pressures, and you can just see the strain. And when we do the investigation, we check in their life, you could just see the strain forming. And then you get to the point where the sad part of it is that you have people that are choosing to harm themselves and even take their own lives at the age of 13, which used to be, there was a Rubicon there that wasn't crossed, and now I've heard of people as young as 11 and 12, and we just didn't have that in our mindset to do that. We didn't know that was an option. We didn't have it in our mindset, and I think that we're getting exposed to too much information, and we're getting presented with things that are options, and we're getting pressures put on us to make it seem like it is way harder than it is to do what we've got to do. And we're trying to live up to unrealistic expectations, and it takes its toll. And I tell people when I'm writing them up and everything, as I say, I don't compare you to anyone else. I compare you to you, and you're not doing as good as you can do. I'm not comparing you to anybody else. I'm not putting you under that pressure. And too many people are comparing themselves to the wrong people for the wrong reasons. And we see that strain every day, because search and rescue has become more of a societal thing. It's when somebody decides to step off of the grid a lot of times in an unceremonious way and just vanish themselves. And it creates strain on their families. It creates impact on the infrastructure, because resources have to be used to find them. That's why we exist, to more efficiently do that with people that just do that and just have the training, just have to answer the questions. Every time I do a in-service at a police department, or I talk to a family, or I'm talking to a police officer, say, oh, those are good questions. And it's not because we're smart. It's because we do it all the time, and we know the right questions to ask because we have a bigger sample to pull from of experience. And believe me, we've asked. We've been in the wrong situation. We've been in awkward situations and mastered backing out of doors. And TJ's nodding his head.
Mm-hmm. Well, too, it's how people. It's how people see the world is different than how the world sees people. And I see a lot of like the harassment going on with social media, where it's easier to attack someone via social media because they're not next door. They could be several miles away, several thousand miles away. But at the same time, I see individuals more concerned about their social media reputation than their own local reputation.
I think there was some value to when you had to worry about the repercussions of what you said and did coming via somebody punching you in the side of the head. I think that we acted a little better. There was more civility because now you can very anonymously, very cowardly say something about somebody and vanish. You can attack somebody. You can try and exploit somebody online. You can do all these different things, but you're not held accountable for it. You're not in their face. It's never quite gets real on your side. It's real on their side because it's wrecking their world. And I don't envy them as much as I may rag on them. I don't envy them the pressures of being young in this day and age because when I was growing up, you were comparing yourself to maybe 2 or 3 people. There was Timmy Brown down the way, and there was Eric, and there was I wish I had this. I had it. Now it's everybody on social media just looking their best, and none of it is real. None of it is real, because if people were really living and enjoying life and exploring it to its fullest. One of the things I've learned doing this is when you're really out there doing stuff and you're in the moment in that Zen kind of way, you ain't got time for a picture.
Well, I just see that individuals are need some means of reality, and I think that I think this is a big influence as to what causes them to go off the edge, is that they have a tough time understanding what is real and what's fake, what's out there, because the media influences them to a certain point, saying that if you don't reach this certain goal in your lifestyle, in your society, then you're not a credible individual or a credible citizen. One of the things that we, as we were walking in here, we talked about voting. Maybe it was off my head. A lot of people don't vote anymore, and I keep saying to myself, why don't people vote? Voting is important. And they said, I think the reason why people don't want to go out and vote is they feel that they can't change it. And that's wrong. Is that if you vote, at least you made a decision to vote, even though that the individual that you voted for may not be the individual that you want to be placed in that position, but at least you had a choice.
I think there's 2 reasons why people don't vote. I think one is they don't think they'll make a difference, like you said, and I think the second one is laziness. And I think the laziness stems to a degree off of it's not going to make a difference off of the first thing, But everybody should vote. Vote early, vote often. Go out and vote. Whoever you vote for, that's your decision. That's your part of supporting the direction of your municipality, country, town, hamlet, or whatever. It's important, but it's interesting, and that when we started doing this, it was walkaways. It was I always say Timmy from the campsite, and then Timmy got high-speed internet and an Xbox and never left the basement again. And now it's people with mental health issues, people that are substance abuse issues that don't want to be found. And that substance abuse issues are difficult, and we get hit with them. They're not the same with boots on ground looking for people. The investigation is the same, but you've got a community that doesn't want to help you. You've got because they're engaged in legal activity, and you've got everybody secretive. Nobody wants to be found, and they're hiding the person. And sometimes, depending on where the person goes, and if the person succumbs to overdosing or something, it is in the interest of the merchants that sell the product to hide the people's bodies, because it's bad for business to have bodies. So you've got that additional, and that's just a nightmare. You spend 10 times the energy, and you get 1/10 the results.
Well, look at the case where we're looking for an individual who apparently had a falling out over Valentine's Day, and we went out looking late in the evening, looking for him. We had some situations with a team member who went a little bit beyond what she should have been doing. And it turned out that the individual was in another state and was following the search via the media.
And commenting on it.
And the only other thing that we had prior to that was an individual on Father's Day weekend apparently had a spat with his dad, and he was up in a tree, and he was monitoring us by calling his friends.
He was calling me. Eventually, he was calling me and taunting me.
So you have those individuals out there. They just want to see what the reaction is, and it's I don't. Is it a cry of am I being loved by someone, or does someone care about me, or are they just doing it out of spite? I don't know, but I'm saying to myself, it's 1:00 in the morning. I'm out here with 50 volunteer firefighters, and I'm trying to lead them through the woods by telling them to look up, look down, look left, look right, and turn around with their flashlights, and then realizing this guy is, this individual had called in.
Well, the first one you're talking about, that's the one where I almost died off the bridge, right?
Yes, that's the one where you almost died off the bridge. Yeah. And to me, I told you we should have left our team member there and picked her up in the morning. We could have tied her in, and because she went into an area that she wasn't supposed to be going to, and but that was your decision. You had to save her.
It wasn't a matter of saving somebody. It wasn't a matter of that. And are you asking me, do I have regrets? Yes, as Sinatra said, regrets. I've got a few. Yeah, that was one of those. A lot of what we do can be summed up by saying many long nights. Because I swear sometimes when we're working something, I swear that somehow we manage to get you have a 24-hour day, and I think sometimes we have 24-hour nights where it just goes on forever. I mean, and sometimes you feel energized afterwards, and sometimes you want to sleep for 2 days. TJ never stops off. Sometimes after search, we'll stop off someplace and eat just to make sure everybody's okay and get our second win. And we go into places, and we try not to talk about the event that we were just at. And but sometimes it creeps out, and you don't want to do it around people. But I remember we were with another team in a place, and we're talking, and we had this conversation. Actually, I remember this happening twice, and we looked around, and you see everybody's just looking at us, holding their forks halfway in the air. And we realized we're talking a little too loud, and our because we always ask, could we be seated away from decent people, please? But how has doing this differed from what you thought it would be when you started?
It was a lot different. I thought that I could come in and change it and wouldn't have any problems whatsoever. And I said, hey, I can contribute to this. And I was wrong. I mean, I didn't realize that a lot of people, my predecessors, that put a lot of time and effort into it. You know,